Now, only filthy scum can act like this, taking the lives of ordinary people. That from Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky as two Russian ballistic missiles slammed into the heart of the northern Ukrainian city of Sumy, killing 34 people and wounding 117 in the deadliest strike on Ukraine this year. Zelensky urging Donald Trump to come and see the devastation for himself. Now, Trump himself has called the attack terrible and said that he'd been told they made a mistake, although he did not elaborate any further. Earlier, Trump's envoy to Ukraine said the attack had crossed any line of decency. We're going to talk about it more now with our international affairs commentator, Doug Herbert, who joins me here on set. Doug, we've got expressions, not surprisingly, of outrage all around. We've heard it before, though, haven't we?
Yeah. So, Stuart, you remember Bucha, right? April 2022, the discovery of mass executions, civilian executions in Ukraine. We had worldwide condemnation, reactions of outrage and horror. This shall not happen again. You remember the Kramatorsk railway station bombings? Do you remember that? Do you remember Mariupol in the opening days of the war? The strikes, the Russian strikes on a maternity hospital, the expressions of outrage and condemnation. Those responsible shall be held to account. Do you remember? You probably don't remember this one. Even if you remember Bucha and Kramatorsk, in Dnipropetrovsk, there was a residential apartment complex that was bombed. That outrage, most people have forgotten. And what about Lyman? Where? What? Which town? Lyman, residential city. Also, a residential area targeted by Russian strikes. All of these, in some cases, cluster munitions of the kind that were used over this weekend on Palm Sunday in these back-to-back high-velocity ballistic missile strikes. Cluster munitions, meaning little bomblets. The bomb goes off, and then it spreads a whole bunch of clusters of little bomblets. The pattern repeats again and again. We have expressions of outrage. It happens so often, even in this war, especially you could say in this war in Ukraine, following Russia's invasion in 2022, that there is a word for it. It's called the impunity cycle, Stuart. And it means just what you might think it means. It means that there is a cycle by which the rhetoric of outrage, the expressions of condemnation from world leaders following an atrocity, following a war crime, let's call it what it is, a war crime, is not followed by the political will to do anything about it. Blame who you will. And the news cycle as well. Journalists, the narrative, the news cycle moves on, so do we. If we didn't, I probably wouldn't have had to just recite that list to you of past atrocities, because you probably find yourself thinking, yeah, what did happen after that? Were there any consequences? The bottom line is no right now. Once again, though, we are hearing people ask the question following Sumy, will this be a turning point? Will this be something where a line, a perceived Rubicon, a moral transgression has been crossed? It's too early, obviously, to answer that question, but we do have, I want to show you quickly, Macron, what he said this time. Can we bring up his tweet? He tweeted, and there's a pertinent part of this tweet. There it is. In the middle, if you see, everyone knows this war was initiated by Russia alone, and it's clear that Russia alone is continuing with it right now, with blatant disregard for human lives and international law and the diplomatic efforts of President Trump. We had very similar expressions from Emmanuel Macron after Bucha. The outrage is still there. The condemnation is still there. The political will still is a big question mark. Will this be that turning point?
Yeah, I can't help but ask that question, Doug. I know you've slightly taken the mickey out of me asking it, but you've got to, haven't it? Will it change the dynamic? Will it change the way that Trump looks at this conflict?
Look, not to be cynical or not to be pessimistic, but I see no reason to sit here today and say, yeah, it looks like this is going to change things. This will be what finally turns things around. Look, we have had very clearly last Friday, we had Donald Trump's envoy to, it seems, all conflicts now, Mideast Ukraine, meeting in St. Petersburg with Vladimir Putin. It was his third face-to-face meeting with Putin by this envoy. And he has been, what has he been doing in the wake of that? And even before it, literally parroting the Kremlin's talking points. In this case, with regard to, well, any strategy to broker a ceasefire here is necessarily going to have to involve Ukraine giving up the annexed regions of Ukraine, in the east of Ukraine. These are the Kremlin's talking points, the classic case of them, because these annexed the regions that Ukraine has annexed, that Russia annexed, are not just annexed illegally, but they are also partially still controlled by Ukraine. And this talk of annexing them implies that even the parts that Ukraine still controls will have to be handed over to Russia. So we have Witkoff and other envoys sort of aping the Russian talking points. At the same time, let's look reality in the face here. Donald Trump, and you had that comment, a horrible mistake, this is terrible. Donald Trump cares about one thing. I've said this all along. He cares about getting the Nobel Peace Prize. Revenge on Obama, who he believes never deserved his Peace Prize. He wants a Nobel Peace Prize. He's not thinking in terms, he's never visited to see Ukraine as Zelensky wants him to come and actually see the reality there. He just simply is thinking of this in transactional terms. The end of war is better than war going on. And what will mean for him, perhaps enriching himself, his own ego, his own objectives, his own place as being seen as the man who ended the war quickly, even if he hasn't done so quickly. Putin, from his standpoint, couldn't give a hoot about what the U.S. tells him or tries to tell him about ending the war quickly. Putin has made it clear every step of the way, not because I'm saying it, because Putin has made it clear that he is going to end the war only on his terms. No one dictates to Vladimir Putin. He does things on his own time frame, on his own terms. He is, in a sense, openly mocking Donald Trump, and he's sending a very clear message. No, it's my clock, not yours, Donald Trump. And this message, what's happening in Sumy right now, shows that Putin has absolutely zero intention on doing anything on anyone else's playbook. This is the way he wages war. This is the way he's done it up until now. Is there a meeting of the minds here? Maybe Donald Trump's transactional, egotistical approach to peacemaking will somehow meet Putin's objectives. But until Putin knows that his objectives in this war are going to be met, no amount of peace overtures or peace negotiations are going to move him any closer to actually signing off on a deal, let alone respecting it.
We should talk about Europe as well, Doug. European foreign ministers are meeting in Brussels. Is this going to affect their agenda?
Affect it, yeah, in the sense that they're all talking about it. It's all top of the agenda right now. The Polish foreign minister basically said this morning that this Sumy attack is clearly, and the Europeans need to understand this. This is essentially Putin mocking Donald Trump, if not humiliating him, and they need to see that very clearly. From there to what can the Europeans do about it? They've been sidelined from these peace talks, sidelined from the negotiations. Every meeting they have is about how can we get some skin in this game, at least have some say. They, last week agreed on more military aid from Europe for Ukraine to the tune of 21 billion euros. Nothing to sneeze at. That is something. We know about the ongoing efforts led by the British and the French for this so-called reassurance force, somehow deployed when and if there's ever a ceasefire and a peace deal there in Ukraine to protect against the potentiality of a Russian reinvasion. But for now, that's all they can do. And even, the European leaders, their top policymakers, including their policy chief, Kaja Kallas, she said when asked, is there a clear clarification of the plans going forward? She deadpanned. She said, no. The Europeans have no illusions that this is an extremely heavy lift, especially since they so far do not have a seat at the negotiating table. They have limited means. They still do rely on the U.S. for a lot of their defense umbrella. They're trying, but it is going to take many months and years, and Vladimir Putin knows this.